y'all? It's Risa with another speed build. So this time I'm building yet another set from a Nancy Drew game. I am building the Hot Kettle Cafe from Nancy Drew Danger on Deception Island. So this is one of my absolute favorite games, like, in general. Like, not even just Nancy Drew, but it is one of my absolute favorite games. The soundtrack is bangin', as you could hear from that intro music, which is one of my favorite tracks from the game. The ambiance is impeccable, and the sets are just really cool, which is why I am building this one. So the Hot Kettle Cafe is owned by one of the characters, one of the suspects in the game. If you don't know anything about Nancy Drew, so if you may be watching this because you like Sims, and you may be watching this because you like Nancy Drew, so I'm gonna give a little background on both things for you guys. So, the Nancy Drew games by Her Interactive have been going since 1998, and there are 33 of them, kind of 34 since one of the games got remastered, but really, it's 33. This is one of the, first. This is, I think number 9, maybe 10. I think it's 9. It is wild. It takes place in Washington, off of the coast, in the Channel Islands, and on Deception Island, which is a fantastic name. You have to admit, it is just absolutely fantastic. But the entire premise for the game is that Nancy is going to visit a friend of a friend for a vacation. So she is going to she's going to spend her vacation on a houseboat, which the friend does whale watching tours from. So this is her vacation situation. But as soon as she gets there, they find that the houseboat has been vandalized. And so Nancy is immediately brought in as I can help you solve the mystery, which is pretty much how all of Nancy's vacations end. Or start, I guess, in all of the books as well, and as the games. So the entire game is wild from start to finish, because it starts with, oh, okay. I don't know if you guys can hear the sirens, but I can wait. Okay. So the, main premise then is that we are trying to figure out who has, wrecked her houseboat, and we find out that there's, this whole thing going on where, there's an orphaned orca out, and people are, mad because the people who fish have to, go all the way around because they can't get close to it because of, regulations and stuff. I can't think of words. I have had about 5 hours of sleep, so this is what you guys are gonna get, and I kind of apologize for it, but you know what? This is just how life is. So, and then someone else is, another whale watching tour guy, and they're I wish I could get out so that people could see the whale, but we're not allowed to. So there's all these different people who could be mad because our friend is able to go out towards the whale, because she's also a marine biologist. So she has she's being tasked with paying attention and making sure that the whale is safe and not getting harmed. But I just went really in depth on this story. I don't know why. I apologize, but it is fantastic, and the ending is incredibly wild, and I really recommend you play it if you like point-and-click adventures and you've never played it. These are honestly some of the most accessible point-and-click adventures because they don't have the kind of moon logic you get in other point-and-clicks. There's some of it. There's definitely still some. I won't pretend that there isn't, but it is way less moon logic-y than, say, King's Quest, where you're just I can't finish this game unless I have a walkthrough. So, many people also feel like a lot of these games they can't finish without walkthroughs, but not because they can't solve it, but sometimes it's just a little tedious. So the one thing about this build that is interesting, I'll say, is I had to build it all on a platform so that things looked right. Because basically, there is if you don't know The Sims, there is a platform tool and then there is also a foundation tool. The foundation tool is what most people would probably use for this situation. But because I was trying to make it look as much like the game as possible, the side of the curb out front has a very specific, it looks like, sidewalk slabs. Not quite. Like brick almost. And for foundations, there's no siding that looks right for the foundation. So what I ended up doing was I made it all a platform so that I could have the look right outside. And that was maybe the wrong choice because the platforms cause a lot of issues later on in the build. But you know what? It looks fantastic. So I don't care too much. I care a little bit, but not too much. I'm actually really proud of how the outside of this build looks because it looks so close to what the actual game looks like, which I love. I'm so excited that when I do something like this, I love being able to get it as close as possible. So that's why I like making video game sets in The Sims, because it's like a puzzle for me that I'm getting to piece things together. So I'm like, okay, I need a door that looks at least vaguely like this, invokes the same vibes as this, and just trying to figure out where it needs to go to make it look right. So the one bad thing about trying to take video game sets and put them in The Sims is that scaling is off in The Sims. So if you don't know, a tile in The Sims is basically a meter square. Which is on the surface is oh yeah, that can make sense. But it does mean that you end up with things like counters are then a meter square. So that doesn't really work very well. So trying to get things usable in The Sims and making them look kind of normal for real life is very difficult. And then the other issue is that in video games, generally what happens is the insides don't match the outsides. You view something from the outside and it's not going to completely match the map from the inside. In the game, the Hot Kettle Cafe just doesn't have any bathrooms. Just none. No bathrooms whatsoever. So I to make it a usable lot in The Sims, I did have to add a bathroom, which isn't a very weird thing that I did, but you know what? It works, and I don't care too much. You'll see when we get there as to why I'm it's weird. But I am pretty happy with how I got everything outside to look. There is this political poster outside that says vote for Holt. So what I ended up doing was I used a protest sign from City Living from the politics career. You can unlock that, and I just turned it around so that it looks at least it gives off the same vibe as the vote for Holt sign in the game. Holt Scotto is one of the characters in the game, and he's running for Harbor Master, so it's a huge vibe theme in the game is this kind of vote for Holt thing, and he's insufferable, and I dislike that man. But, what can you do? But out front, Nancy bikes everywhere in this game. She gets lots of exercise in this game because it all takes place over the course of one afternoon. Which, love that. Well, I guess it could be all day. It doesn't have to be just the afternoon. But you know what I mean. So Nancy brings her bike with her, and she also has a helmet, and if you don't put her helmet on before you click on the bike, she can just die, which in Nancy Drew games you can die all sorts of ways. It's one of our favorite things to do in Nancy Drew is figure out how do we kill her this time. That sounds so bad, but it's true. I mean, but to be fair, in the Sims community we do the same thing when new packs come out. We're okay, now what are the new ways we can die? So, the Sims community, the Nancy Drew community, we can all agree on one thing, and that is show us how we can kill our characters. we can just come together and really just understand each other in this way. So one of the reasons that the scaling being off in The Sims makes it difficult to do this kind of thing is you can see that I have these booths that are put down. And in The Sims, the only like booths we have, booths. Why? I don't know. They're 3 tiles wide, which is way too wide for what it is in the game, and they just don't look like it does in the game. So I had to wrestle with myself on if I wanted it to be functional or if I wanted it to look exactly right. So I ended up going more towards having it actually look right. So I replaced those booths with benches in a while, and they are not usable in The Sims. So sorry, but they're not. A lot of this build is not actually usable, but there are plenty of actual tables you can use, so I don't feel bad for doing that. It's still a usable lot, but some of the things are just a little, like, wonky because of how I had to do them. Also, some things just straight up disappeared. When I was moving things around, I had to make the entire build, like, wider at one point and then longer at another point. So because of the platforms, things are really difficult. And they just don't look quite right, and they don't work right, so things will just disappear sometimes. If you're going to place this from the gallery, which it is up in the gallery under my ID kookykitt, you need to make sure that you have move objects on turned on, which is bb.moveObjects, all one word, and then space on. That way it'll actually, like, it won't just delete things. But sadly, because of the platforms, it did just straight up delete things anyway, which is a bummer, but, you know, that's fine. So as I mentioned that there's no bathroom in the game, but to have it be a working cafe, I had to add a bathroom. So what I ended up doing was, because I needed anyway, what I needed to do was make the front wider so that it looked right from the video game, from the outside as well as from the inside. So what I ended up doing was I utilized that space to put a toilet in, but I couldn't fit a sink in there as well. So I just have, like, further along, I just added a completely separate room that just has a sink in it. Just a sink, nothing else. So if your Sims are going to use the toilet, they need to first use the toilet, leave that little room, and then go across this little courtyard to wash their hands in the sink. But it's like, I'm working with not, like, it's very little I'm working with. I specifically chose this lot in Brindleton Bay because in the game itself, you can see out the windows, and it is all coastline. So it's fantastic. So I wanted to try and get that kind of view as well as good. God, words. Words are just not my friends today. I have done many things already today, and I've recorded this already, by the way. Haven't mentioned this yet, but I sat down, I recorded this entire voiceover, and I then realized I didn't have my microphone selected. So it just recorded 27 minutes of nothing, which was really fun to look at. Especially since I would like to have a nap, but I was like, I'll have a nap while the video is rendering. So yeah, I'm recording this again. Just fine. I just know that this is going to take a while to render because it's so long, which I did not expect this to take me so long to build. I don't know if I've already said it in this voiceover yet or if it was just in that last one, but I was like, this is such a small, like, location. It's only 2 rooms, 2.5 if you count the closet. So, like, there's no way it's going to take me, like, too long. I can probably get this done in an hour. It took me, like, 3 or 4 hours in all to do this. I cut out a lot of messing around with things in this video, and it's still almost half an hour long. Like, you'll notice that things just will appear, but it's because I didn't include all of trying to, like, make things work when I know that I ended up just getting rid of it in the end anyway. So if anything just appears, it's because I was like, I just don't care enough, because it just doesn't work out for me. What's really kind of fun is in the actual set of the game, there are these really cool light fixtures that are like, I don't know how to put it other than just industrial, but we don't have anything from like ceiling lights in that way in The Sims, so I did end up just including like the saucer lights, and there are these fitness stuff lights that have like the kind of same feel. Otherwise there were like kettlebell lights, but I just didn't think those looked as good for what I was doing. I have now realized that there are only 3 windows in this room and not 4. I got carried away when I was doing it originally, but that's okay. It's fine. The entire wall there with all the big windows is just not quite right in The Sims, because in the game there are these, like, what are they called? I keep trying to say indents where the windows are, but not indent. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not quite a bump out either, but it's just like what would be half a tile further back from everything else is where those windows are. And in The Sims 4, we can't do half tiles with walls, or in any Sims game, actually. So I ended up not being able to make that look right. It's a little flat because of it, but I was like, I'm gonna pick my battles. So now I'm finally going to be dealing with the booth situation, because I found those dividers from, there is an expansion called Get Together, if you don't know The Sims, but they come with like a bunch of stuff that's like supposed to look like European, I guess. So it includes like these benches and these like dividers and stuff that would go in, I think, like tavern looking situation, if you understand. Tavern, or what's the other word for it? Pub, I guess, is what it's supposed to look like. So I included those. They don't work, but they look right. Like, if you look in the game, you'll see that they look right. So I'm pretty happy about that. I'm pretty pleased about how that ends up looking. I had a really tough time trying to get this, like, wall divider situation going, because between the 2 rooms, there's supposed to be a, like, how would you, like, a window, basically, into the other room, but it doesn't work like that in The Sims. Like, there are no windows like that would work. So I ended up having to do, like, columns on either side and a spandrel and then the wall dividers, and that made it look right. As right as it could, which, you know, pick your battles. Pick your battles. Like, I picked my battle here of none of the wood tones match in this game, from pack to pack. So in the actual Nancy Drew game, all of the wood, like, columns and stuff have, like, this orangey wood tone, but the benches and, like, the dividers I used for the booths don't have a good orangey tone. They only have this dark brown tone, but it did not look right to use that dark wood tone everywhere, especially since the front door didn't have a good dark wood tone swatch. So half of it is that orangey, and half of it is that dark wood tone. And I just kind of went, well, I don't care enough. You know, it does not matter. This is not going to, this won't be the end of the world if it doesn't look right. So, yeah. It just it doesn't matter to me. I tried to do something over here. There's supposed to be like a maritime flag alphabet and international alphabet. What are they called? You know, where it's like Tango Whiskey, that kind of stuff. There's a sign with all of that information on it there. So I ended up using that, like, I think it's from Cats and Dogs, and it's like cat facts or something like that, and it looked right. So I did that. And then it's supposed to be like kind of like a bar height situation going on there, like a counter type thing that you would find at a cafe or a restaurant of some kind. But we don't really have anything like that in The Sims that looks right, so I just kind of built it out of shelves. It's not usable. It's not an eating surface, but it does still, like, it looks right, and so that's what I did. And I included, it has like a little plant and then like a little postcard, like, swirly thing? What are they called? Why is English so hard? Like a little postcard thing that like turns around, like on a Lazy Susan, basically. So what I included there was I used the spice rack that's round. And it has the same vibe. Yes, it's spices, but if you just like glance at it without looking, you would be like, yeah, that looks right. Because you know, that's just what we gotta do. I do end up having to make this all wider again, which is a bummer. Oh, really funny. When I went to go take like screenshots and stuff, I wanted to include some of the characters from the games in there. But you can't choose who is going to like be the barista. So what I ended up doing was the barista who showed up was, I think it was Nina Caliente, whichever Caliente has the red hair. She showed up and I was like, okay, what I'm just going to do is I'm going to just go into Create a Sim and I'm going to just change her so she looks like the owner of the cafe, which is Jenna. And then I just won't save and she'll just go back in the save. It won't matter. And then I forgot and I saved it when I exited the game. So that Caliente sister just does not exist anymore. She's been replaced by Jenna Devlin. So, yeah. And you know what? It worked. I was going to also make Holt. I was going to change Jeffrey Landgrab into him, but then I just was like, I don't care enough. Because it's a lot easier to make Jenna than it is to make Holt. Because Holt has like this weird... He looks like he wants to be... like... Gosh, he looks like he wants to be in Moby Dick. You know? That's kind of his vibe. That's the vibe that man gives off. Which isn't great. I hate that character. And he talks so much. I tried to speedrun this game a while ago. Because for some reason, I'm into speedrunning sometimes. Just Nancy Drew games, though. So I was trying to speedrun this game, Danger on Deception Island. And you can't skip dialogue in the older Nancy Drew games. So I would have to just listen to him talking over and over and over again. And so now I hate him. Like if I didn't dislike him before, now I just straight up hate him. Because he's terrible and I don't like him. And he just talks and then he makes me go get him a crab. You know? I have to go find a male Dungeness crab. Which is irritating. And really fun thing is if you actually bring him a female one, because it's illegal to catch female Dungeness crabs, in Washington at least. So if you bring him a female one, he'll be like, okay, this is wrong, go get me a male one. But then if you bring him a female one twice in a row, you just get arrested. You straight up just get arrested. I love that. Nancy just gets arrested. Nancy can also, she dies if you don't put her life vest on and you go kayaking. She'll drown. Just like she'll fall off her bike and die if you don't put a helmet on her. And you can also, a couple things that doesn't kill you but should, is if you're jumping, like you can jump from rock to rock. And if you jump to the wrong rock, you can slip and hit your head. And that would kill you in real life. Falling off your bike wouldn't really kill you, but slipping on slippery rocks like that would. But in this case, instead, she just calls home and is like, I need to get picked up. I got a goose egg on my head as big as a lump or something like that. And it's just like, you should be dead. And then the other time is a very similar situation where if you're at the lighthouse, like rocks can fall on you if you don't step out of the way in time. And yet again, that doesn't kill her. And it's like, Nancy, you would die. That would be death. You know what I mean? Just that would be death. But you know, that's how it is. In this room, I was then yet again going for like vibe over accuracy, and I think that works. There's this closet here that is like, you have to figure out who like broke in and stuff like that. It's a whole thing. I sadly could not get the trapdoor to work that exists in this room in the game because of platforms. Just made it so I couldn't even put down a basement. So that was fun. That would have been fixed if I had just used foundation, but I like to make things difficult for myself. So yeah, we're getting to the end of the video. If you like this video, make sure you give it a big old thumbs up and leave me a comment telling me what you like about it or what Nancy Drew set you'd like me to do in the future, or what just video game set in general would be fun, because I just love doing this kind of thing. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and hit that bell button to get a notification every time I post a new video. If you would like to watch me play point-and-click Nancy Drew games live, you can find me on my Twitch channel, Krollmeister Sisters. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and peace out, y'all.